Oh, new event. Oh, case files. Oh, oh, oh! Hello, hi, it's me, Manpig, and today's a big day. Yeah, if you didn't know already, the case files event, the El-Melloi case files event, has just been announced to Fate Grand Order, JP, and for once, I need to do a video on a JP event because I'm kind of a really big fan of case files. And while I won't spoil too much about it, basically what it is, it's the Fate work that's least related to Fate and most related to outside Nasuverse. Like, Case Files barely actually focuses on the actual Holy Grail War and more about the world of Magecraft. And well, I'm a huge fan of it, so now that there's an event, I want to talk about it. Specifically, I want to talk about the servants because guess what? I love the servants a lot. But since this is so impromptu and this isn't really something I planned, I'm just gonna do a first impressions kind of improvisation type video. I will edit out the major big flubs, but I will just talk about these servants and I will talk about all of them, starting with the 5-star. Now, if you didn't know, the 5-star is Rhaenys El-Melloi Archisorte, or Sima Yi, because she's a pseudo-servant, of course. Rhaenys is Waver's adopted little sister, essentially, because Waver became El-Melloi II, blah blah blah. Rhaenys became his little sister, long story short, they're siblings, sort of. And well, Rhaenys is a really cool character, in my opinion. She's very prominent in case files. There was a lot of people asking why Luvia wasn't the 5-star, because she was more popular, and well, it's because she doesn't play nearly as prominent as a role as Rhaenys. Rhaenys is a prominent player in case files. It's obvious that she'd get the 5-star treatment. So I'm just gonna go on the Fate Grand Order wiki and just talk about these servants and share you all my thoughts without any script, so please excuse any inconsistencies or any stupid things I say. Rhaenys' art is actually done by the artist of the light novels for El-Melloi case files. So her first ascension, as you can see, it's just her. It's just Rhaenys, normal Rhaenys. Like, it's just her normal design. I like it myself, but if you don't, that's your opinion. Her second design's more of a militaristic commander type look with these flaming trees in the background. This is personally my least favorite one. Not that I dislike it, I just don't care for it. Like, it doesn't really appeal to me that much, but it's cool. Her third one, though, her third ascension is her as a Chinese commander, because she's Sima Yi. And I love this. This I adore a lot. I really like it. And her final ascension art is beautiful. It is just gorgeous. Like, look at this. It's so nice. And if you're wondering why she has red eyes, it's because Rhaenys has a special type of mystic eye that basically turns red when she comes into contact or is nearby a source of magical energy. The thing about Rhaenys is that, from a gameplay standpoint, I'd actually call her the worst out of the 3 so far, which is a shame because she's an awesome character and is very entertaining. Like, I don't consider her a waifu or, like, an object of affection, but she is sassy as fuck, and I love it. She is entertaining as hell. In terms of stats, she actually doesn't have that bad of stats. Like, she has really good attack and HP as well at a glance. Her star absorption as a rider is quite insane, and her star generation is not amazing. It's mediocre, but it works because she has a 3-hit quick card. Now, the thing about her NP gain is that it's actually surprisingly decent. I wouldn't call it, like, amazing, but it's good. It's good. It doesn't look that way with a 0.64% NP gain, but her actual hit count is 4, and it actually balances out quite well. Now, the main problem with Rhaenys is the fact that she's a rider, and she eats up stars, essentially. Now, usually that isn't a problem, because riders can use those stars to dish out great damage, but the thing about Rhaenys, when you come to her skills, she's not an offensive rider, she's actually a support, and that's a problem. Now, the first thing you'd notice is that her first skill is literally a worse version of Waver's defense skill. That's not necessarily bad, but that's it gives you a first impression that, oh, this limited 5-star has a skill that's basically another servant skill, but a bit worse. That's the first impression I got. It's like, it's not a bad skill. It's actually a pretty good skill. But still, that gives the first impression. Her second skill, on the other hand, is interesting. It gives a really good attack buff and also charges their NP up quite decently, but it's on a 6-turn cooldown and reduces her own attack by 20%. Why was this here? I have no clue. In my opinion, there really shouldn't be a reason for this demerit, because, like, balance-wise, is already on a 6-turn cooldown, and it really wouldn't be that big of a difference compared to, like, Waver. And again, reducing her own attack doesn't do any favors, because 205 for that star weight. No. Now, for her third skill, this is actually quite good. But the problem is, I don't think it's worth the 6-turn cooldown or even leveling. It is granting one ally a 2-hit invincibility. That alone is really solid. But it doesn't do a lot for a 6-turn cooldown skill, and the debuff resistance is kind of a forgettable effect. And, well, for limited 5-star, like, these skills are okay, but they're not amazing. Like, they're really something you'd expect from a story gacha or, heck, a permanent summon pool. Overall, Rhinus doesn't seem to have that amazing set of skills compared to other support servants. She's, like, sort of trying to be a support, but only has skills that go halfway. And especially with that star weight. And since she's a rider, I feel like her second skill really needed a targetable star weight attached to it. Then this would be worth it. Only then. Because as is, this should not be here. This is dumb. But if it had a crit star weight, it would not only make the demerit understandable, but also fix the huge problem of Rhinus being a rider. Like, if she wasn't a rider, she wouldn't eat up all these stars. And while she can generate decent stars, it's still a problem. Now, for passives, she actually has pretty decent passives. She has riding, territory creation, and magic resistance, so quicken arts. I mean, they're solid passives. Now, her main thing to talk about is her Noble Phantasm, and in my opinion, this alone makes her worth using. It's basically a reverse charisma at NP1, a defense down for all enemies, and removes all the debuffs she has, as well as reducing the critical attack chance for the enemies for 3 turns. This is, I find, negligible, but it's better than nothing. The real thing to talk about is that it ignores defense class disadvantage for your party for 3 turns. That is huge. Now, for instance, if you have like a team of Berserkers, you can just use Rhinus and boom. Berserkers do damage to everyone and they take neutral damage. Useful. That alone is really helpful, especially for the whole party. Like, if you ask me, this alone is worth using. And you could argue that this makes her worth using to NP spam because it lasts for 3 turns. She has good hit counts on her deck, and she has a befitting deck. And since she's a rider, she can crit on her arts cards and just spam her NP. That is a strategy I see her using, and in my opinion, this alone makes her worth using. This alone. Now, the second servant I want to talk about is Astrea. This is our 4-star of the event, and guess what? She's a ruler, and she's a 4-star, and she's not limited or story locked. She's permanent. And all you Luvia fans can finally rejoice because guess what? It is Luvia. It is Luvia Gelita Edelfelt. It is her. Luvia is the pseudo-servant of Astrea, which is, to my knowledge, a Greek god of some sorts. I don't know a lot of history. I'm really bad at history. I just know her as Luvia. Astrea is the name of one of my favorite Gundams, so that's cool, I guess. But yeah, I'm just going to refer to her as Luvia because that's how I know her as. Now, the interesting thing about her art is that while Rhinus was done by the light novel artist of El-Melloi Case Files, Luvia is done by the manga artist of El-Melloi Case Files, the one who does the manga. Personally, I like their art a lot, but my main problem is that this doesn't really look like Luvia. She looks off, in my opinion. I actually, as a design, I really like how they drew Luvia. It's just, this doesn't scream, this is Luvia to me. But for Luvia fans, you wanted a Luvia pseudo-servant? You got one. Now, in terms of Ascensions, I like her first one the most. It's like a typical dress. It's something that Luvia would wear in Case Files. Like, if you read the manga, she actually wears something sort of like this. And in my opinion, this is the best one. This is my favorite, easily. And the interesting thing is, Luvia is a case where her first Ascension is completely different to her second and third. I don't particularly mind it, but it's just something to note. Now, in terms of her second Ascension, I don't really care for it. It looks really, really over the top, in my opinion. Like, especially her feather hips. But yeah, it's cool. I don't dislike it. I just don't mind it that much. Third Ascension looks great. I like the little bands, and it just feels like it rounds it out a bit much, but I still think it's a bit too much, if you get what I mean. Yeah, I'm not a fan as much, but I love the first Ascension. That looks like Luvia. Her final Ascension is very glorious. It reminds me a lot of like a Valkyrie warrior or something, and you can see flowers everywhere. It's good. It's good. Uncommon opinion though. I'm not the biggest fan of Luvia as a character, like in general. Hot take, I kind of find her a bit annoying most of the time, but Just in advance though, I respect if you like her. If you like her, more power to you. Enjoy who you like. It's just not for me. And in Case Files though, the thing about Luvia is that while she is in Case Files, she actually has a different personality. Luvia is how she is, and that is a magus, and my god, she's quite different. Like, she is cold, she is calculating, and she doesn't even hesitate to try and assassinate Waver. Can't say I'm the hugest fan of her character. I respect her, and I think she does the role well as a sort of a third-party unit of her own. But yeah, I do like her more in Case Files than in the rest, because I find that her cold and calculating personality is a lot more serious, and it's easy to believe that this is a person. But let's talk about what makes me really, really fired up about her, though. So first off, she's a ruler. Immediately advantage. Ruler classes are awesome. Star Generation, okay. You don't use it because she has a Saber deck. She has a high attack stat for a 4-star, and while she has a lower HP stat, she's a ruler. She's a ruler. She can take a hit or two. It's fine. NP Gen, it's passable. It's not amazing, but it's not bad. It is decent. It is average expected. What makes her amazing, though? First off, this skill. This skill is amazing. It is an instant good impression. It is an attack, a defense, and an NP Gen up. This is solid. And it's on a 5-turn cooldown. This is going to be active majority of the battle. This is really good. Specifically, when leveled, it is really good. It's not interesting, it's not unique, but it's simple and effective. I like it. Second of all, Mana Burst Star. This is... Just look at it. It's instinct and an Arts Mana Burst tied together. 30 stars at max is no joke. That is really good. That's half of your cards and more. This is really good. Her arts buff is a bit weaker because of that. And I will admit, that is a bit of a shame, but if you ask me, arts buffs have like more of a right to be weaker than compared to buster buffs, because remember, arts buffs also increase the NP rate, and NP rates, you can use it to spam. Like, I won't recommend it, but like if you use her NP and an arts chain with her crits, because you can do that with these 30 stars, you can absolutely get a full NP Brave Arts chain, and it will refund her NP. It is on a 5-turn cooldown, but as I said, this is good. However, that is not the best skill. Delightworks saved the best one for last. Look at this. This is Judgment of the Stars A brand new skill that, yes, consumes 5 critical stars, which is a bit of a shame, but it increases her own star absorption for 1 turn by 500%, and it increases her own critical damage by 1 turn by 50%, while charging her own NP gauge by 20%. At a 4-turn cooldown. That is ridiculous. I do think it's best if you use these two skills together. In my opinion, this is really good. This is, in my opinion, out of the 3 servants we've seen so far, this is the best gameplay-wise. Passive's really good as well. She is a critical arts servant, so guess what? She has an arts performance buff and a critical damage buff. What more could you ask? She has Goddess Essence, which is okay, but I don't mind it. Oh yeah, her Noble Phantasm also gains more critical stars. She can generate stars really well. It is really solid. It is a single damage Arts Noble Phantasm with an 8 hit count, so if you have like Caster Gill, you could theoretically make her generate stars with this, but yeah, it's a really good NP. And it deals extra damage to evil alignments. If you have Lancer Vlad, you know how good this is. This is really good. And as a ruler, super easy to ascend. The skills aren't as easy, but yeah, she's just really good. I wouldn't call her the best ruler. I'd still argue Qin Shi Huang is easily the best ruler, but honestly, if you ask me, I think she's just the definitive single target ruler for now. Like, fuck. It's actual madness. And finally, the last servant I want to talk about is my personal favorite. Now, this is Gray. If you've seen me on Twitter, if you've checked my community tab, if you know me as a person, you'd know I love Gray. Now, the thing about Gray is that she is Waver's student, and she's one of the main characters, and she is our welfare. And the thing about Gray is, as I said in my top 10 servants playthrough, I really like original characters. Gray is a perfect example of this. Gray is actually one of my favorite Fate characters in the entire franchise. Not necessarily Type Moon, but when it comes to Fate specifically, she's easily really high. She is really high. I really like her. Like, god damn. She's basically a pseudo-servant, but with the concept being more refined and more creative in terms of application and lore. And I really, really dig not only her abilities, not only her lore, not only her design, but basically everything she has, everything she represents as a character. She is so interesting and so cool, and I love her. She is easily one of my favorite characters. So when Case Files event was announced, I was like, oh god, Gray is coming. Gray is finally coming. And oh boy, she came. She was the welfare. And I was hoping she would be the welfare, because while I would roll for Gray, I didn't want to. I didn't want to risk it. She's the welfare. Everyone gets a Gray. I am so happy about this. I can't say this enough. Gray is one of my favorite characters, and I am immeasurably happy to have her. Now, in terms of art, Gray's art is really nice. I really like her art. Now, it's really simple, really standard, but it fits her. Personally, I like it a lot. Her final art is just gorgeous incarnate. Oh my god, she is beautiful. She is one of my favorite characters, and my god, this artist did her justice in my opinion. I love her art. It is simple but effective, and it works. It works. I love it. An interesting thing to note about Gray is that her design is actually changed a little bit. The thing about Gray's design here is that she actually has a bit of a modified design compared to the light novels and the manga. She has the ornate clothing, she has a more normal skirt, and she has a light hood. Now, it reminds me a lot of Little Red Riding Hood right off the bat, except Little Gray Riding Hood, I guess. The thing about Gray's normal design is that she has a dark coat, she has a sort of like a raincoat almost, but with a fuzz. And it's not really actually fitted to her hood. Like, this design looks like a robe. It looks like she's wearing a robe. But her typical design is that she's wearing a coat. Her hood is more like a hoodie rather than a robe. And she actually has a normal plaid skirt and a zipper sweater. It's a lot more modern, and just in comparison, her design is actually quite different when you compare the two. Despite that, though, I actually prefer this design because, in my opinion, just it looks nicer. It fits her well. She looks like a village girl, and I dig that. Now let's talk about her. Now the thing about Gray is she's an AoE assassin. A welfare AoE assassin. Immediate point, because AoE assassins are rare. I don't want them to be rare, but they are. The problem is her deck. Now, upon just looking at it, you don't mind. She has a quick deck, an Arts Buster. That's typical assassin deck, alright? Now, in terms of stats, her stats are actually pretty solid for an assassin. She has a high attack stat and a low HP stat, which for an assassin, that's useful. That's useful, especially an AoE assassin, because you're going to be using her for farming. Her hit counts are actually really solid. Like, 3 hit quick, 3 hit arts, 2 hit buster, 5 hit extra. That's really solid. Her NP gain is decent. It's not amazing. And her star generation rate is the typical assassin star generation rate. It's really good. It's really good. This is going to be my main point. Her NP is AoE, and it's buster. Her deck doesn't fit her NP. I think she should have had 2 buster cards instead of 3 quick cards. 2 quick cards, 1 arts, 2 buster. That's how I think she should have done it. Because then she would have been the niche of having an AoE buster brave chaining assassin. Now her NP itself is actually pretty solid. It's average buster NP in terms of damage, but it also reduces quick and buster attack resistance, like to the enemies. And it's AoE, so it's all enemies. It reduces their resistance, and that is really useful. Those are solid effects. I can't complain about them. I really just think she should have been a buster servant rather than a quick servant with a buster noble phantasm. In my opinion, that should have been how she was. Skill-wise, though, that's also quite interesting. Now, her first skill is definitely interesting. It's basically a monster strength, but with a bonus effect. As you can see, it's basically a 3-turn attack buff. It's not amazing. It's a 30% attack buff. It does the job. The special thing is that it basically allows her to do special damage against undead enemies. Now, this is really strong. My biggest problem with a lot of special damage skills is that they're only with special damage. This is not. This is an attack buff paired with special damage, and that works really well. The special damage is 100%. It is not weak. And while there aren't any servants that are undead, there are quite a few mobs that are undead, and it gives Grey a bit of a cool niche. Especially since the cooldown is not affected at all. This is solid. I like this skill. It's simple, but it works, and it has a cool little bonus effect. Second skill, this is basically a half mana burst, and it procs invincibility for 1 hit. Personally, I'm okay with this skill. I can see people not liking it, because it is one of those skills where you pair an attack buff with solid defense. In my opinion, I don't mind it that much. It gives her that solid defense, and for having 2 effects, a 40% buff is really good. It is really good. It is on a 6-turn cooldown, which I think, yeah, that's worth it. Because those are high percentages, and she's invincible. I can see people disliking it, though. The third skill is the weakest one. It's an NP battery, but it doesn't increase by level. It's a solid, permanent 20%, and it increases her debuff resist. Not by a lot either. And it's on a 6-turn cooldown. Who thought this was okay? This is by far her weakest skill. If her NP battery is scaled by level, fine. But because it doesn't, this is honestly not a very good skill. Easily level this last. Don't bother. Which is a shame, because if this is one of 2 problems that keep her from being great. As I said, having an extra buster card would have given her an actual purpose, like a solid purpose. And if this skill didn't suck, if it was a 50% battery that scaled through level instead, she could be a good farmer. But even then, overall skill set is okay. It's very simple. Actually, I just realized, if her invincibility was with her third skill instead, it would be a lot better as well. But yeah, her skill set isn't super interesting, but I think it's pretty solid, and if you want to get the job done, this will get the job done. This is a good skill set, not breathtaking or amazing, but it's good. And for welfare, I have little complaints outside of her third skill. I'm still grailing her. In terms of passives, well, she has, interestingly enough, as an assassin, you'd expect her to have presence concealment to generate those stars, but she doesn't. Instead, she has independent action and a unique skill that increases her NP gain. Not complaining, but I would have preferred presence concealment as well. And that's pretty much it. As I said, I love Gray. I'm still gonna NP5 her, get her, and work my hardest to level her skills. She's one of my favorite characters. Who cares about gameplay when you love them, right? I don't care. I'm grailing her to at least 90. At least 90, probably even 100. Because I love Gray. She is one of my favorite characters, and I love her. She has good stats. Not amazing. She's good. She's usable. I will use her. Now, that pretty much wraps up my thoughts on the servants of the Case Files event. I haven't played a lot of the Case Files event. It is fine. It's not super hard. It's not super easy either. But like, I can cheese it. I can probably Zhang Yu waiver it. Waiver. Well, speaking of waiver, actually, if you notice, Waiver is a caster, Gray is an assassin, and Rhinus is a rider. They have an advantage to each other, similar to Shiro, Sakura, and Rin, because Muramasa, Ishtar, and Parvati, like if you notice. They are weak to and strong to each other, and it was a funny joke, hahaha, same here, essentially. But yeah, that's my overall thoughts on these guys. I'm really happy with these servants overall. I do think Rhinus could have been better, as well as Gray. But I mean, I'm just happy they're here. I'm just happy that we finally have these characters as a servant, and we can get them. They're here. I'm really happy. I'm going to play them. I'm going to play Gray until she's Bond 10, and I'll probably Bond 15 her eventually. I love her. Let's do this. Alright, so if that's it, that's going to be it for now. For this little discussion. It's just trying something new because I really want to be on this hype train, but yeah. I hope you enjoyed this discussion video, this unscripted discussion video. And yeah, look forward to these guys later on. Huh? Oh, hey there, Gray. You finished with orientation? Ah, I see. Unfortunately, I can't really remember very well what that is. Sorry. I'd really appreciate that. Speaking of which, how's Chaldea treating you? Oh, really? Oh, that's good to hear. On behalf of Chaldea, I'll say that you're very welcome here, and as your master, I aim to do my best to work with you to reach our goal of saving the world. Sounds a bit cliche when I say it out loud. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is, it'll be a pleasure working with you, Gray. I'm sure you will.